Well, spring has landed, listings are surging and the headlines are screaming frenzy. But is it really that wild out there in the market? Well, let's cut through the noise. G'day folks, it's Matt Hayson here with The Word, our straight talk take on what's actually happening in the Sydney property market this week. Well, spring is here, as I mentioned, daylight is extending and we've just felt that warmth of summer sun approaching, which has been absolutely lovely. But for weeks I've been suggesting now that we'll see a sharp rise in listings coming to market, and that's well and truly underway right now. That said, we were coming off a fairly low base, so the new listings were very much needed, and we did have some delays, as everybody knows, through to that poor weather back through August. But let's check out what's really happening with supply and the auction market. Now, the last week preliminary clearance rate in Sydney, I'm always interested in this, was high, sitting at 80.3% according to Cotality. Now, the headlines again were very bold. Auction fever sparks house price surge, and more to come on that in just a moment. But let's look at really all of these numbers that are unfolding right now, because SQM has the final clearance rate in Sydney sitting at 56.4% for the week. Now, the Saturday clearance rate was a little bit better, sitting at 57.8%. So yes, it is edging up, and it's also edging up as the volumes improve too. Last week in Sydney, there were 1,123 auctions scheduled for the final weekend in August. But if we look at the first week of August, there were just 755 auctions and a clearance rate sitting at 55.4%. So we're seeing that marginal uptick in the clearance rate over the month, but the auction volumes have just jumped a whopping 50%, and we expect that trend to continue as we move deeper into the spring window. So as we close off winter, property values have also edged up in August. According to PropTrack, they recorded growth of 0.7% for the last month of winter. And again, the headlines, they're just so bullish. In this article by Aidan Devine, words like property frenzy are being used. Now, the PropTrack data also says that the average Sydney home has climbed $66,000 more than it was sitting at this time last year. And in the same narrative across all of the media outlets, ABC is framing this as a seller's market. Sydney property prices, they've grown by 2.1% annually and 1.7% over the past quarter. Over at the AFR, it's very much the same, but their tone is house prices set to jump after months of steady growth. Now, Tim Lawless, the head of research at Cotality, has said it's this kind of complexity of supply and demand where supply remains really low, whichever way you want to measure it, and demand is gradually rising, despite the fact that housing is still really expensive and unaffordable. But here's the thing with all of this. Agents and most sellers are not seeing this frenzy or seller's market that the media are absolutely headlining at the moment. The market is absolutely fine. It's balanced, but it's not frenetic. Buyers are moving, but they're moving with caution and value focus. Now, we're seeing A-grade property draw in strong demand, and those properties will see spirited competition at or before auction. But your mid-range property, which is really, in fairness, probably 70% of what's available on the market, is a very even negotiation between buyers and sellers. Now, buyer sentiment, it is improving. The warmer months are at our doorstep and more listings are coming to market. And we can feel the energy is improving through the market, and it's a pretty big but here, it's not a market where sellers can get carried away and just ask for ridiculous prices. The reality is we've just seen auction volumes increase by 50% over 4 weeks, and the clearance rates only moved from 55.4% on August 3 to 56.4% last week. Now, if that's a frenzy, if that's a crazy seller's market, I'm gobsmacked. Now, there seems to be a lot going on over the next coming months as well, with rising listings and a weak chance of a September rate cut, but the markets are still betting pretty big that the chance of a November cut is far higher. So I'm still calling this market on the CH Market Move Meter a 6.8 to maybe 7 out of 10. Get the price right and engagement is there. Buyer sentiment is improving, but there's still a few cracks in this market that are very much evident, and sellers need to remain very sharp and strategic with their listing coming onto the market. So that's a wrap for this week. We have some extraordinary listings coming to market this week. We're so excited about them, and the spring weather is here. We love to see you out and about, and thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next week.